Have you ever encountered an individual who seemed entirely rational, composed, and well-mannered, even exhibiting generosity, yet ultimately left you with a sense of unease? With an unsettling feeling, one might ponder whether the genuine peril in humanity lies not in overt displays of anger or blatant animosity, but rather in something far more insidious. Carl Jung, the groundbreaking Swiss psychiatrist, posited that a specific trait, frequently obscured in plain view, characterizes the most perilous type of individual. It is not the characteristic that we inherently dread, such as hostility or deceitfulness. This peril frequently presents itself under the guise of serene composure and, at times, even allure. That is exactly the reason it may remain undetected until it is too late. It is not the characteristic we inherently dread, such as aggression or deceitfulness. Indeed, this peril frequently dons the serene facade of composed authority and even allure. That is exactly the reason it may remain undetected until the moment has passed. In this video, we shall delve into Jung's profound psychological insights and methodically reveal the cautionary signal that must never be overlooked. Ultimately, you may begin to perceive certain individuals from an entirely new perspective. Prior to commencing, kindly ensure that you subscribe to the Mental Dose channel and become a member of our Telegram community, where you will gain early access to new videos and valuable insights pertaining to personal and spiritual development. Let's commence our endeavor. In order to grasp Jung's caution, it is essential to begin with his perspective on the human psyche. Jung posited that each individual dons a facade, a social persona crafted to navigate the external realm. Yet, concealed behind this facade resides the unconscious, a broad expanse teeming with innate impulses, repressed emotions, and fundamental symbols that resonate across cultures. One of the most significant aspects of this concealed domain is what Jung referred to as the shadow, the aggregate of all the characteristics we disavow within ourselves. Jung posited that the shadow is not solely a product of societal influences. Rather, it arises from the conflict between our true selves and the personas we feel compelled to adopt. During our formative years, we internalize various signals regarding societal norms and expectations. Adorable or deserving of commendation attributes that do not align with those narratives, such as vulnerability, anger, ambition, or independence, are subtly suppressed. As time progresses, we tend to align our identities solely with those aspects of ourselves that have garnered validation, while simultaneously rejecting the remainder. However, that which is disowned does not vanish. It resides, it persists beneath the surface, molding our reactions, choices, and perceptions in ways that often elude our recognition. This subtle force is what renders the shadow both essential and perilous when it remains unexamined. The potency of the shadow lies in its intrinsic neutrality, rather than an inherent malevolence. It is merely unrecognized. It encompasses our impulses, our envy, our fears, and even our latent talents. However, when these aspects remain unaddressed, they tend to become distorted. Individuals who reject their own shadow frequently project it onto others, attributing blame to the external world for the very aspects they are unwilling to face within themselves. Jung perceived this as a latent psychological crisis waiting to unfold. As we delve further, let us examine the consequences that arise when this shadow is overlooked or completely suppressed. When an individual repudiates their more shadowy inclinations, those sentiments do not vanish. Rather, they withdraw into the depths of the unconscious, accumulating energy and biding their time for eventual expression. Jung cautioned that that which remains unconscious will manifest itself as destiny. To put it differently, the greater our denial of our imperfections, the more those imperfections exert influence over us, operating subtly in the background. The unconscious does not merely retain repressed impulses. It actively transforms them. Jung perceived the unconscious not merely as a passive vessel, but rather as a dynamic and influential force in shaping human experience. When aspects of a self are repressed, they do not remain inactive. Instead, they transform, striving for expression through indirect and frequently harmful means. The greater the suppression of these disowned aspects, the more their emergence manifests in symbolic and irrational forms. Disturbing dreams, compulsive actions, unreasonable anxieties, or self-destructive behaviors may serve as indicators of a deeper aspect of the psyche attempting to penetrate the confines of awareness. Jung posited that the more we disregard these signals, the more they intensify, ultimately steering the individual toward either a breakdown or a breakthrough. An individual who suppresses their darker aspects may present an image of tranquility and poise. However, their internal landscape reveals a contrasting narrative. As time progresses, the division between the external persona and the internal truth generates a strain that necessitates expression. At times, it manifests as expressions of intense emotion. At other moments, it seeps through a veneer of sarcasm or through understated acts of malice disguised as care. Individuals often fail to comprehend the reasons behind their tendency to undermine relationships or experience persistent dissatisfaction. However, the underlying cause remains consistent: an unacknowledged shadow. This interplay becomes particularly perilous when it is intertwined with a specific illusion, one that Jung regarded as even more treacherous. The individuals Jung cautioned us regarding were not primarily those who exhibited overt hostility or aggression. They were individuals who held the conviction that they embodied pure goodness. When an individual perceives themselves as morally impeccable, spiritually transcendent, or inherently virtuous, they frequently forfeit the capacity for self-reflection regarding their own conduct. The treachery of moral superiority lies in its resistance to self-reflection. Individuals who are firmly persuaded of their own virtue will rationalize manipulation as assistance, control as safeguarding, or even cruelty as a form of tough love. Their actions may appear ethical at first glance. However, underlying them is a concealed agenda, a deliberate evasion of their own shadow. Jung posited that an excessive attachment to a self-conception of virtue increases the likelihood of unconsciously manifesting its antithesis. It is precisely due to their suppression of any recognition of its existence within themselves. Thus, what unifies all of this? What is the unseen connection that weaves through these perilous behavioral patterns? Jung provided a rather unsettling response. Before we delve into the subject, if you find this video to be thought-provoking, please consider sharing it with someone who may benefit from these concepts. If you wish to support Mental Dose and assist us in continuing to produce insightful content such as this, you may click the thanks button located below the video to make a donation. Your support significantly contributes to the continuation of our endeavors. Let us now revisit Jung's most striking revelation. Carl Jung posits that the most perilous indication within an individual is the total lack of awareness of their shadow self. When an individual declines to acknowledge their potential for wrongdoing, perceiving themselves as devoid of anger, cruelty, or deception, they become genuinely unpredictable. The true peril lies not in the existence of darkness, but rather in the refusal to acknowledge it. Individuals who acknowledge their shortcomings tend to exhibit greater trustworthiness, as they possess an understanding of their capacity to inflict harm and actively seek to mitigate such risks. Yet, individuals who perceive themselves as devoid of a shadow remain oblivious to their own conduct. They provide justification for all actions, rationalizing any circumstance, while leaving a trail of bewilderment in their path, often oblivious to the part they have contributed. According to Jung, this phenomenon transcends mere psychological deficiency. It represents a kind of spiritual myopia. When you encounter an individual who asserts their unwavering kindness, morality, and correctness take a moment to reflect. Contemplate what aspects of themselves remain unseen to them. The revelation may very well serve as a safeguard for your own well-being. If these concepts have prompted you to contemplate or reconsider your perceptions of yourself or others, please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. I would greatly appreciate your insights. Should you wish to delve further into the intricate complexities of the human psyche, do consider subscribing to Mental Dose. As we delve deeper into the essence of others, we find ourselves inexorably pulled into the profound recesses of our own being.